The so-called smacking ban hasn't led to any convictions for assault against a child since it came into force in Wales 3 years ago. Now, the Act came into force in 2022 and removes the use of reasonable chastisement as a legal defence. It means anyone who smacks a child in their care in Wales can be arrested and prosecuted for assault. Well, now, a review of the change published by the Welsh Government says more than 350 people were referred for out-of-court parenting support between April 2022 and March 2025. But there were no convictions for assault. We can now talk to Dr Ashley Frawley, a parent and sociologist at the University of Kent Centre for Parenting Culture Studies, a supporter of the Be Reasonable campaign group, which opposed the ban. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. You opposed the ban 3 years ago, I think I'm right in saying so. How do you feel right now? Do you still feel the same about the ban?
Yes, I do. It's important to recognize that even without conviction, there are enormous consequences for families. And as I warned at the time before the ban, those consequences are going to fall disproportionately on Black and minority ethnic parents and working class parents who are already under enormous surveillance and are subject to the force of the law disproportionately, which is what we see in crime statistics across the board. So there's even if you haven't been successfully prosecuted, there are still enormous consequences. So more than 100 parents every year now have been formally processed because of smacking accusations. And even where no prosecution occurs, the investigation itself can appear on enhanced DBS checks. So that affects employment, teaching, social care, medicine, volunteering, access to university courses, even the ability to travel abroad. And this falls the hardest on the people who are the poorest, who are the most vulnerable already in society. And the Welsh Government knew that. They knew from their own studies that Black and minority ethnic parents are more likely to use smacking, and therefore they're more likely to be subject to the consequences of this ban, which I think, and I said at the time, is based on the policing of parental norms, on the basis of studies of parenting studies that are often done on white middle-class parents, often in the United States.
You're talking about one group of people there, but more broadly, there is a suggestion, surely, with these figures that this is working. And the review says that there is a general trend towards disapproval of physical punishment amongst the public. So more broadly, there is good behaviour here. Good practices have come from this ban, surely.
Well, it depends on what you think are good practices. It is well known in the literature that authoritative parenting is the most effective form of parenting. And not authoritarian, not passive, authoritative parenting often historically especially, uses smacking as a backup method. Now, that makes people really squeamish. In our culture, we have an injunction that childhood is a necessarily happy time, which is good, but it also overrides the fact that as a parent, you have to make children feel uncomfortable in order to discipline them. And flattening out the relationships between parents and children completely casts doubt and suspicion on parents. It makes parents question their own authority. A huge range of things that parents have to do as a good parent would be considered coercive, would be considered utterly unacceptable between adults. And it completely disposes of the fact that you have a special relationship with that child, that you have a responsibility to socialize that child. And part of that is that you have to make the child feel uncomfortable. But trendy ideas of positive parenting, which have really taken over a lot of our policy, our parenting policy, override that and make it very, very difficult for people to parent. And we've seen this in Northern Europe, where you have a situation where parents feel very uncomfortable doing things that they have to do as good parents, like take away a cell phone or a mobile phone if necessary, ground a child, that put them in, tell them they can't leave the house. They feel very uncomfortable doing this. They feel very uncomfortable asserting adult authority. And if you don't have authority as a parent, it makes the job impossible. It makes it so much more difficult than it needs to be. You should not be afraid to do what you have to do as a parent.
It's an interesting argument, and I'm sure we're going to continue with it. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr Ashley Frawley there, a supporter of the Be Reasonable campaign group, which opposed the ban, also a parent and sociologist at the University of Kent Centre for Parenting Culture Studies.